All right, how's everybody? How's everybody? Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Yes, yes. Um, welcome to the Lawyer Henderson Show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and Cash App is at $ Lawyer Henderson 40. Thumbs up, family. We got something very important to talk about. We're talking about R. Kelly been found guilty today. Okay. Talking about R. Kelly been found guilty today. The white media, they were all over it. The press, they kept on being all over it. They kept on bringing it. They got this black national channel or black national, whatever you call it, the BNC. They were all over it. They basically did not allow cameras in the courtroom. And it says here that R. Kelly convicted of luring women, underage girls for sex. Okay. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Oh, shout out to my cousin Cameron. So R. Kelly convicted of luring women, underage girls for sex. And Reuters, basically, I will give them the credit because we're going to read and we're going to break this down. Now, I want to talk about two things here. They talked about the Mann Act and they talked about racketeering. Okay, which both, as you know, number one, for the racketeering charge, you need a group of people. You just can't be found guilty of racketeering just by itself. So what we're getting at is that basically there was the jury who basically, found him guilty based upon the emotions of what the prosecutor was saying about these women. Okay. And there's the reason why it was in the white media. The white media stayed on this. They basically said, well, R. Kelly has been found, have been doing this for years, and they had all that stuff on there. And I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then we're going to dive into giving you the facts of the case, the legal standpoint of the case, and why the jury voted on this with emotions and not the law. Okay. This was not basically a guilty verdict on what the law says. Okay. If that's the case, you'll have a lot of men in jail. If we were going by the law, if we were going by just putting people in jail just because they must have mistreated a woman in a relationship or something. But in New York, it says R. Kelly was convicted by a federal jury on Monday in his sex trafficking trial, where prosecutors accused the R&B singer of exploiting his stardom over a quarter century to lure women and underage girls into his orbit for sex. Now, let's stop right there. First off, okay, he was told in certain states, as you know, that the age of consent is 16 and 17. My question is, why are we not going after the state lawmakers that wrote that law? Okay. If we're going to get convicted of the age of consent being 16 and 17, based upon the idea he broke no law based upon what the law says, age of consent 16, 17 in certain states, because he's not a person of authority, he wouldn't have been convicted. Jurors in Brooklyn federal court deliberated for a little more than a day before voting to convict the 54-year-old Kelly on all 9 counts he faced after a 5.5-week trial. Kelly kept his head down as the verdict was read, with his face shielded by a white mask. A woman watching from an overflow courtroom cried as the verdict was read, as did others who had waited to learn Kelly's fate in a part. Man, I hate when these people try to put ads in front of it. This is what gets a lot of people upset when you try to advertise when people are reading something. Hold on, guys. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Okay, it says a woman watching from an overflow courtroom cried as the verdict was read, as did others who have waited to learn Kelly's fate in a part adjacent to the courthouse. One supporter played the singer music there, including the song Shut Up. Devereaux Kennick, I hope I said the lawyer's name right, a lawyer for Kelly, told reporters that the defense was disappointed. I'm sure we'll be appealing, he said. Kelly faces mandatory minimum of 10 years behind bars and could face up to life in prison at his May 4, 2022 sentencing. The singer, whose full name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, is one of the most prominent people tried on sex charges during the Me Too movement, which amplified accusations that dogged him since the early 2000s. Now, look here. Before the Me Too movement, they were castigating black men, or castrating black men in the press. Look what they did to Michael Jackson. So not only did the Me Too movement just let fire on putting more black men in prison, because that's the whole goal, because there's no white man who went to jail besides Harvey Weinstein out of all of these white men who sexually abused women and children as well. And we're talking also about the white men who are basically, snatching up black girls and killing them for their organs, or selling their organs. See, that's not going to make the national media, right? You understand? But anyway, I digress. It goes on to say here, like Kelly, many of his accusers were black, differentiating the case from recent Me Too conviction of comedian Bill Cosby and movie producer Harvey Weinstein. Cosby conviction was overturned in June. Now, very important that they basically said that. So it was a conviction on Bill Cosby part that was overturned. And I'm pretty sure that this in R. Kelly's case are going to be overturned too, because number one, like I'm going to get into, we're dealing with double jeopardy all over. Okay. They basically, this judge allowed so much stuff inside the case that should have never went there. And we're going to get that in a minute. This is crazy. Okay. Goes on to say, it points out, because, the white media always like to point out certain things here that probably give them some type of thumbs up here. Well, we can help you, black women. We'll give you some attention here. But, the person who is doing this has to be black men, right? But it goes on to say that Kelly also had black supporters. One, civilian Tumaline, I think her name is, said in an interview that the verdict left her angry, upset, and saying that this is a white America after she had attended the entire trial. I'm going to try to raise some money for him to try to get the appeal process started, says Tumaline from the state of Georgia. I'm going hard, and I'm not giving up. I'm not. Okay. That's one black woman who I agree with. Hopefully I can meet her and we'll help him on the appeal too. This is outrageous. Folks, there has never been any evidence that this man had locked up these women in houses. They were seen with this man in the store where they could have told police, told an adult. This is really, let me just tell you, this is laughable. Folks, nobody has ever got convicted over a documentary, man. If that's the case, then why are we not putting more police officers in jail? They're engaging in all kinds of crimes. Why is it that a lot of these fools who ran CBS when they were harassing women, why are they not in jail? This is crazy here. It goes on to say that Kelly had been charged with 1 count of racketeering and 8 counts of violating the Mann Act, which prohibits transporting people across state lines for prostitution. Number one, you got to have a collective for there to be racketeering. You can't just do racketeering yourself as a mob boss. Mob bosses had people doing a lot of things, selling cocaine here, going overseas, and basically to engage in criminal activity. That's racketeering. This is not racketeering charges, and this is the reason why certain prosecutors need to start going to jail. Certain judges need to start going to jail. They let all kinds of inadmissible what they call evidence into this man's trial. This man did not get a fair trial whatsoever. What the definition of racketeering is that, okay, I got groups of people here and I got groups of people there, and what they're going to do, they're going to come and help me, and I'm going to have all these girls sexually, human trafficking, and we're going to go all across the world to engage in this. Like the mob bosses do. They bring drugs from certain types of other countries into the United States. They can be convicted because now it's a collective. If this then was racketeering, then why is it that he's the only one being convicted? Where is his enablers? And the parents should go to jail too, because the parents then say, okay, you can pimp my daughter out. If as long as that money keep coming, then look, you got my daughter. You understand? That's the same thing going on with Jocelyn, the same thing that went on with Azriel, the same thing that went on with all these other women. When he broke up with them, it was like, oh man, I'm not living the rock and roll lifestyle no more. There's no evidence of racketeering. This is the reason why we say, look here, this jury convicted him not on the law, they convicted him on emotions. Now, let's go ahead and continue here. Let me go back. It says Kelly had been charged with 1 count of racketeering and 8 counts of violating the Mann Act, a Mann Act that they never used on Elvis Presley, who basically married a 14 and 15-year-old girl back in his days. Okay, the white media was not all over that. No. Okay, of course we can't convict him now because he's dead. But what about when you talk about traveling across state lines? Okay, well, why did we not convict Elvis Presley back in the 1960s and 70s when he was traveling with his young wife at 14 years old, 15 years old? One of the most important, brilliant things that his defense attorney, Greenberg brought up. Here's the thing. It goes on to say that the racketeering charge gave prosecutors leeway to offer evidence that might otherwise be too old to prosecute. That's the point. Everything that they was mostly saying was outdated. There is no evidence. This is double jeopardy. They allowed Aaliyah to be basically used as a Jane Doe, and she's not here. This was the whole redone of what happened in 2008. This is double. Some of this stuff is double jeopardy. Some of this allowing the old trial in Aaliyah's case, which should have never been brought on. Then they used some of the same witnesses back into the trial. Folks, let me tell you, as a black man, look, it is getting scary for us. We told y'all about white press. I agree with what this black woman said, Sylvia Tuzzlin. She said she's angry here in Georgia. She said, I'm angry. White America. Look here. This is not a definition of no racketeering. There is no evidence. Nobody called the police. There was no police reports. They went off of emotions, and they went off of what the people were saying on the stand, which basically, as you know, they can make up any lies. A lot of them was crying and stuff like that. They was rehearsed by their attorneys, and you had Gloria Allred. She brings her clients all the time into her law firm, and all of them are coached to say the same damn thing. All of them are. Then it goes on to say, where are we? Let's see. He said that the records, we hope that today's verdict brings some measure of comfort and closure to victims, acting U.S. Attorney Jacqueline Coslet told reporters. No, she should be in jail. You see, these prosecutors, this is why I don't call this country a democracy, because prosecutors like her and judges who violate the law, they should be going to jail too. This is prosecutorial misconduct on the government's part. There is no evidence, and the reason why they get away with this because no prosecutors, no judges have been going to jail when they violate the law. That's the reason why there is no such thing as democracy in this nation. Now, on the appeal, he has immediate rights of appeal. They know this. They know grounds for appeal. A lot of information that was used in the 2008 trial used again. That's double jeopardy. Then it goes on to say here, prosecutors said Kelly took advantage of his fame and charisma to recruit victims, including plucked from crowds at concerts with the aid of people in his entourage. Folks, just like any celebrity, they don't need help to bring girls in. They get basically women all the time. Same thing said about this woman said about Tupac Shakur. Same thing. Same thing they say about Michael Jackson. All of these celebrities who are being nice to people, and then when they be nice to them and you give them opportunity, this is what happens. You understand? There is no evidence of what they said. They didn't provide no forensic evidence. It was just all what 45 people said. Some of them who was not even supposed to testify. The whole entire trial was just, it was really just, I'm sitting here looking at this. I'm like, damn, this is double jeopardy here. How can this person bring up the same situation as far as Aaliyah? How could they basically they have no police reports, nothing. It was just their words. Then they showed they didn't want the cameras to be in a trial so the people can really go in there and say, no, this is crazy. Wait a minute, why are you asking this question for? That's see, when they did OJ's trial, remember, they had cameras in here. We could see he couldn't fit the glove. This did not happen in R. Kelly's case. They had a closed trial in which they call public trial. A public trial is that the first thing that we get to see is the what's going on in the courtroom. But this judge didn't allow that. This is not a public trial. A public trial, you give us access as to what's going on. When they had a public trial of Derek Chauvin, they wanted for the whole world to say, oh, yeah, he got convicted. Okay. And they want the world to see, there's no racism in America. See, that was just white convenience. Folks, this is laughable, man. This is laughable. It goes on to say here that prosecutors said Kelly took advantage of his fame and charisma I read that already. Witnesses said some victims had hoped Kelly could jumpstart their career, their careers, only to find he demanded their strict obedience and would punish them if they failed. Trial testimony from the 45 government witnesses portrayed, often in graphic detail, an unseemly side to Kelly's 30-year music career, whose highlighted included the 1996 Grammy-winning smash "I Believe I Can Fly." Kelly has reported denied sexual abuse allegations. His alleged victims, including the late singer Aaliyah, which they made a Jane Doe, by the way. They made a Jane Doe. They already brought that up in 2008. It goes on to say who Kelly believed briefly and illegally married in 1994 when she was 15, and Aaliyah died in 2001 plane crash. Now, she's not here to defend herself, but here's the thing. One of his enablers, Demetrius, who they're gonna talk about later, from what I understand, is that they were able to get her like a fake ID or what have you. Okay, it goes on to say that many accusations against Kelly were. You see, this was mostly what most of all this stuff was going for. People, what they done, man, was railroaded this guy. And now, okay, Screw2 is messing with my YouTube channel, as they do all the time. Your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect. Yeah, I understand why you want to do that now. We recommend a survivors for their bravery in speaking out and sharing their stories. Lifetime and the documentary producer said in a joint statement they had opened up an important conversation on sexual abuse that needed to happen. Several witnesses testified that Kelly instilled fear if his victims did not fulfill his every need, sexual and otherwise. Okay, well, what's the otherwise? Goes on to say that jurors heard how Kelly would compel victims to follow Rob rules, including, hold on, Rob rules, including that they called him daddy and get permission to eat or go to the bathroom. Witnesses says Kelly pressured accusers to write apology letters to potentially absolve him of wrongdoing and conceal before intercourse that he had contracted herpes. One witness who identified herself as Sanja testified she had hoped to interview Kelly for a radio radio station where she was interning when he locked her up for at least 2 days without food or water and then assaulted her. Goes on to say, I've been hiding from Robert Kelly in fear, Sonia said in a statement read to her lawyer, Gloria Allred. Oh, God. I'm ready to start living my life free from fear to start the healing process. Yeah, all the money had ran out, right? Allred alert had the victims to Kinnick's closing arguments where he invoked the civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and urging jurors to show courage and acquit Kelly. Despite the fact that he thought he could control all of his victims, he was wrong. Allred told reporters, referring to Kelly, based upon the evidence, the jury must have concluded that R. Kelly is no Martin Luther King Jr. Kelly did not testify in his own defense. Another mistake. Another mistake. When you are innocent of these charges, you never listen to your attorney when they say don't take the stand in your own defense. Never. If you know that you're innocent, always speak. Always go. Don't listen to your attorneys, because what they're going to do, they're going to tell you, oh, don't take the stand in your own defense. In this point, R. Kelly, if he was innocent, he should have done that. Now, was he guilty of certain things that might have been immoral? Yes, but it wasn't legal. Did he mistreat the women? Yes. Wasn't there rules? A lot of people got house rules that say, hey, don't run around in my house like that. You know, I don't know who coming in and who coming out. Don't be running around in my house, man. You know what I'm saying? Those rules, everybody have house rules. Everybody has house rules. Hey, man, get up outstairs, man. Don't be in my bathroom. Those are house rules. Hey, man, don't be running in. When you grew up, your mom and dad had house rules. Don't run in and out of this house. Man, you're going to run up my electric bill. Those are house rules. So there was nothing he did that came to him being guilty of a crime. Like I said, what he did was he went to these certain states and they said, hey, the age of consent is 16 here. Hey, the age of consent is 17. Immoral that might be, but he broke no law. So what they're saying, they keep saying underage, underage, underage. There's no underage. Now, here's the thing. Why are we not going after the lawmakers who says, well, the age of consent is 16, the age of consent is 17? Look at the lawmakers who made those laws in those states. Why we're not talking about that? Okay, the age of consent in Illinois, I think, is 17 years old. So literally by the law, he broke no law. They kept on saying underage, you understand? And so you got to look at some of these state lawmakers who made that. Or unless they said only white men could have sex with the age of consent 16, 17, unless that's what they're saying. That's probably the reason why Elvis Presley took this girl that he was talking about, his wife, on state lines, and he was never convicted of the Mann Act. Then it goes on to talk, like I said, about racketeering. We're going to wrap up this article here in just a moment. But it talked about racketeering. And let's go back to that. As we talked about the racketeering charge, you cannot have a racketeering situation. An individual alone cannot be a person who racketeer unless they have enablers. They have to, and then you have to bring the enablers to trial as well. You cannot just sit there and just bring down one person. That does not, quantify as a codify as a racketeering situation. A racketeering situation is like you're a mob boss. You got 5 or 6 people saying, "Hey, this is my right hand man. That's my man. He's gonna go to India. He's gonna bring me back some dope. He's gonna go to South, Latin America, or whatever. He's gonna bring me back this. He's gonna bring me some girls, and they're gonna go here. We're gonna come and bring this." It's organized. It's more of a mafia unit. This right here was nothing of that. He had parents saying, "Okay, my daughter can stay with you to quote unquote practice on your music." And they were getting paid at the time that R. Kelly had them living in with them. So in other words, the parents say, "Oh, I'm going to let you pimp my daughter out, hell, or my son. And what you should do is you're going to write me a check of, let's say $500 or $600." And that's and the reason why I know that firsthand is because I met Jocelyn's father. He showed me checks. He showed me of checks that I think came from R. Kelly's folks, but he stretched that all of he adapted. He adapted, what they call redacted or redact. I think it's redact. Redact means that you cross out certain things on the checks so that you can protect your social security number or whatever. They use that in the legal term. But he had redacted stuff on the payrolls, the payroll check. And I'm like, wait a minute, how he can't be making this working at a car dealership in which I basically know him for. And I'm like, dude, I sat down and I asked him, I said, "Listen, is this true what you're saying about R. Kelly with your daughter Jocelyn?" Right? And he said, "Yes, man." He said, "R. Kelly is going to jail for years." I said, "Wait a minute, man." He said, "I don't have to do this." He said, I get money, a lot of money. I was like, "Dude, you used to work at Parts Cars. They don't pay a lot of money. Then now you're working for a rental car company. They don't pay a lot of money. How are you bringing in $3,500 on this check, $5,000 on that check?" In other words, in order to keep your Jocelyn, you basically was being paid by R. Kelly. The family was getting paid, just like Azriel's parents was getting paid. Other women were getting paid. I saw this firsthand. That's the reason why when you saw me on my Facebook page, not like back in 2019, I think it was, people were like, "Well, why are you talking about R. Kelly?" I said, "Man, I met Jocelyn's father, and he basically was showing me all these checks that he had." And I sat down and I asked him, I said, "Is this true about R. Kelly and your daughter?" And that's when all the little scandal had broke where he had a home here in Georgia. I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "This man cannot be making this amount of money on working at a rental car place." So I knew that this man, Tim Savage, was lying. And it goes, well, anyway, it goes on to say here. And then also, what's her name? What's the old girl's name? She tried to be a celebrity. What's her name? Asante McGee. She was another. She was bringing home all kinds of gifts and stuff. He had paid her out so much money. Her boyfriend, basically, that she had met while he was working I think he was a plumber. And you know what I'm saying? And they were like, "Yeah, he did more than plumbed. He came to the house and plumbed, did more than just unstop the stool. Let me tell you that." But he said he met Ashanti McGee, and him and his daughter said that she would bring on all of these house purses home, Gucci bags, all of this stuff because she was with Robert Kelly and his entourage. And got them with pictures and stuff showing it. But see, this is all, the white media, they were all over this. They were basically trying to say that he had lured these women. These women wanted to stay there. There was no evidence. If you're going to arrest him, you got to go after all of the people who was his enabler in order for him to then be convicted of racketeering. And then when it comes to the Mann Act, you just can't just say, "Oh, I went with this girl, and basically, we had sex or whatever, and she was 16." You can't do that. In order to be convicted of the Mann Act, you have to then take her from one state to the other. That is not what happened here. Okay, that's not what happened. The age of consent in certain states was 16, 17. So he went to those states as